Welcome back, and hello if you are new. Now, I hope you all had a fantastic week. I finally got over that sickness that was kind of plaguing me last week, just in time for my birthday, so that's really, really great news. Known far and wide among the metal community as the father of the riff, Kirk Windstein's presence among us is legendary. With a repertoire consisting of Crowbar and Down, you could argue that the man single-handedly invented the sludge subgenre. Now, for the first time, the guitarist and singer forges fearlessly forward on his brand new solo record, Dreams. The overall tone of this record is definitely one of melancholy and introspection, and something I think that was very much needed for Kirk Windstein to kind of really explore. This is of course heightened by the more emotional musical flavours that are put towards the album, but pairs brilliantly with Windstein's vocals, which in this case, clean vocals and clean guitars are very much kind of the order of the day on this record. In my dreams. And it does really develop a sense of, quite wounded emotion and something that is very looking inward. Perhaps the album's real genius territory, however, though, is to be able to change a riff from what could potentially be quite an ominous tone into something incredibly uplifting. And this is perfectly exhibited on the instrumental The Healing, and this is where we can see Windstein's kind of riff mastery at work. It allows the track to kind of teeter onto the edge of despair and abyss before being pulled back into the light again. Arguably a lot of Crowbar material could be seen as quite primal, but instead of it being, kind of like primal in terms of strength, it's more primal in terms of raw emotion. This is due in part, of course, between the interplay between vocals and guitars, but there's an absolutely fantastic sort of like crack in the sky style solo. Those kind of November Rain epics. Of course, this is, however, a man who worships at the altar of the riff, and we are reminded of this pretty swiftly on Toxic, which is definitely the most robust track on the album. The album definitely makes use of space, particularly on Enemy in Disguise, and even though there may not necessarily be kind of like any real bruises on this album, there's a lot of contemplative time for you to really let the riffs sink in, and often let the vocals sink in as well. Grunge is also another word that kept on kind of coming up when I was trying to think of how to describe the album, and particularly on the Alice in Chains inspired The World You Know. Again, it makes use of this space, but has a great interplay between the more melodic side of the instruments, but also Windstein's quite gruff vocals. Though, perhaps I think one of the biggest surprises for me was the cover song. Now, I always think a cover song should be a track that is really out of the artist's comfort zone. And not only that, but they actually take from the original, but also give back to the song their own approach. So what better than Jethro Tull's Aqualung as their cover song? Choosing Aqualung as a song is a really smart idea. It shows that there's, a very large breadth of musical taste that Windstein obviously has, but it's such a different song to everything that, Crowbar would put together, for example. Perhaps the only drawback of the album would be that the songs are quite similar, and there isn't necessarily that much experimentation on the record. With this being a solo album, Windstein very much had a kind of blank canvas, so he could have experimented a little bit more, but with that being said, you could argue that he was experimenting on more of an emotional level. Nevertheless, the songwriting very much makes up for this on the record. This is emotional music for men with beards, and instead of another barraging riff, you get an actual pat on the back, which I think is quite interesting and a new territory that Windstein is definitely exploring on this record. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you did, hit that like and subscribe button. Be sure to check out my other album reviews, interviews, all that sort of good stuff. You can pick up a copy of Kirk Windstein's Dreams in Motion, which is out today, January 24th, in my link below. So please do leave a comment. I always love chatting with you guys, and I will see you guys next week for another album review. Take care.